Thank you, Senator Pocock. And I call Senator Roberts.
Thank you. Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders are hugely talented in the NRL and the AFL, arts, business, science, sport and politics, with a higher proportion of Aboriginals in federal parliament than across Australia. I've driven to all Cape York communities twice, some 3 times. I've flown or boated into Torres Strait Island communities where people really care for each other. Yet government control removes meaning from life and suffocates that care. I have enormous faith in Aboriginals and Islanders. Why doesn't the government? Aboriginals are resilient after surviving Australia's harsh environment for thousands of years. They don't need mollycoddling. The Closing the Gap annual report is clear, a total failure in closing the gap. Only 4 of 17 targets met or goals achieved, and some gaps actually worsening. Labor, Greens, Liberal Nationals governments fail to listen to or meet people's real needs. Patronising paternalism and top-down approaches suppress, torment and destroy Aboriginals. In reporting to Parliament on closing the gap, successive Prime Ministers and opposition leaders duck and weave, using broad, fluffy motherhood statements to portray vague, insincere aspirations devoid of data and specifics. Lies. The governmental view that it knows best is clearly wrong. So where's the solution? For the 2022-23 financial year, the National Indigenous Australians Agency, the NIAA, total resourcing was $4.5 billion on programs. And the result? Rank failure. Where did the money go? This government continually refuses to audit government spending in this sector. Why? What's being hidden from scrutiny? Last October in Senate estimates hearings, I asked whether money would be more effective if it went directly to Aboriginal communities. I meant it. The NIAA said it sometimes allocates money to communities. I meant directly to communities, bypassing agencies for direct allocations to communities via a transparent, objective formula. When I travel across communities in far north Queensland and the Northern Territory, listening to local Aboriginals, it's clear they know the answers. I was told that many activists, advocates, consultants, lawyers, academics, contractors and public servants rely on keeping the gap wide open because they work the system and their livelihoods depend on the program's ongoing failure. They depend on the gap being maintained, not closed, to perpetuate the need for their roles and accompanying salaries. Reportedly, Mr Ian Truss chairs Empowered Communities, an Aboriginal organisation and alliance of 10 Aboriginal regions that lobbied hard for the opportunity to review funding decisions with government. In 2017, it found that more than half of the funding considered was found to be duplication and misdirection. Of $1.98 million spent, $1 million was wasted. With sensible local representatives in charge, this model develops responsibility and ownership. Mr Truss supported the cashless debit card and objected to the Albanese government's capricious decision to take it away without consulting the people. Despite extensive evidence of alcohol-related harm to Aboriginal children, the McGowan Labor government ignored his calls for severe alcohol restrictions in his hometown. Why won't governments listen and learn? The Australian people spoke decisively when we overwhelmingly rejected the divisive voice referendum 60-40. We, the people of Australia, do not want race to decide rights that should apply to all Australians. Yet some states and territories are still actively considering introducing voices and/or treaties. That's a big middle finger to the Australian people's decision. South Australia's One Nation MP, Sarah Game, is sponsoring a bill to repeal the South Australian voice legislation, which clearly has no public mandate. I applaud Sarah Game's initiative. When will this government accept the advice from grassroots Aboriginal groups as to what does and does not work based on real-life experience, and go beyond that to give communities real autonomy? It's time that leeches and bureaucrats sucking on the teats of the Aboriginal industry realise that their time is up and that we're coming for you. Senator Pauline Hanson opened this debate 27 years ago and remains at the fore of pushing for equitable treatment of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, the same as for all Australians. Now in the Senate we have Senators Nampijinpa Price and Karen Little joining us in speaking common sense and truth. The government needs to consider bypassing state and agency grants to fund directly into communities to develop autonomy for real improvement. As a senator to the people of Queensland and Australia, I serve the people of Queensland and Australia. I support it as the quickest and most powerful way to develop responsibility, ownership and progress. This solution is based on autonomy, on human community and on responsibility as being keys to closing the gap.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. The question on the motion of Senator Watt.